very much for joining us on this, well, semi-nice spring day in London. I thought today's going to be full of science, so I thought I'd start off with a pretty light touch, speaking about what Quantemol do. Hopefully a slightly different perspective from the introductory talk I'm sure many of you have heard many times. So for those who don't know, I'm Scott, I'm Quantemol's Chief Operating Officer. Clicker's broken already. Have attempt two. Okay, so what does Quantemol do? Simple question. Not so much of a simple answer. That's what I'm going to pitch here this morning. We tend to think of ourselves as sitting at a bit of an intersection between science, technology, and product. I'm sure many people, both in the room and online, are aware of what science and technology is. So that's not going to be the focus of my talk. But what's product, and what does it mean for a company like Quantum? Substitute clicker. Thank you. Oh, goes the wrong way. So the simple question that I have for you this morning is the function of a product the same as its technological function? I.e., do people buy something because of what it does, or is there some deeper secondary meaning to why people make purchases? And for many of you in the room, you're thinking, well, I know what Quantemol does. They make scientific software for the plasma sciences. Obviously. What do we? So I want to start off with an analogy, something nice and simple. It's a picture of a dishwasher, which I'm sure not many people would have predicted would be in my slide deck. And the example is from one of my favourite consumer psychologists and marketing experts, Rory Sutherland. The simple question is, why do people buy a dishwasher? Again, seems to be an obvious answer. Most of you are sitting there thinking, well, obviously, it's to wash dishes. If I was a slightly braver presenter, I might ask for a show of hands, but I'm not going to do that because of the potential embarrassment when nobody does indeed raise their hands. So I did a little survey within my colleagues at Quantemol, and of course, everybody said to me, dishwashers are to wash dishes, obviously. But I can wash dishes by hand, I said. So is it? Do people buy dishwashers to wash dishes? Then they said, it's to save time. Well, I think it takes a long time to load and unload dishwashers. So I don't think it's a time-saving option either. So if it's not to wash dishes and it's not to save time, why do people buy the dishwasher? What is the product function? We know the technological function, but what is the product function here? I'm not going to pick on anyone in the audience, don't worry. Rory Sutherland suggests that the function of a dishwasher from a product perspective is so that people have a place to put their dirty dishes. Most people don't like washing up straight away. Most people don't like mounds of dirty dishes piling up in their kitchen, reminding them of their student days. So Rory Sutherland pitches that actually the product function of a dishwasher is essentially a cupboard to put your dirty dishes to get them out of sight and out of mind. And that shows a really interesting difference in something can be technologically intended for one thing, but the reason people buy a thing can be something else. So what do Quantemol do? Well, we make scientific software to an extent. We take the best of open source from our esteemed colleagues from the UK R-Matrix codes community, the HPEM community, and more recently from other open source, well-regarded tools. So is our role really to make the scientific software, considering that we have such a breadth of expertise with the people that we already work with? So just a quick reminder for those that don't remember what our software does, and completely unapologetically, I've used a lot of LLM-generated imagery here, just to make things exciting on this Friday morning. QEC, what happens when an electron collides with a molecule? What happens in the excited state? What is the probability of different events happening? And how does that connect with the plasma sciences? QDB, the database, where it's all stored. So this can be data coming from QEC, cross-sectional data. This can be data coming from public sources, publications, etc. And importantly, this can be in-house proprietary data. Just because data is on QDB, that does not mean that it is open to the public. We offer secure ways of storing data for internal dissemination and use. We call that our non-public area within QDB. QVT, actual plasma simulation, built on the HPEM code. And really importantly, something we often forget to mention as one of our products is Quantemol consultancy services. Because what we offer is not just software, it's expertise. Sometimes our customers do not have in-house expertise or capacity to run the kinds of scientific simulations that we can offer. So we do it for you, and we give you the results with expert analysis. So when you're thinking about scientific products, how do you improve? What are the levers that can be pulled in order to improve a scientific product? Obviously, and the one that is taken in most cases, is to add new features. Better science equals better technology equals a better product. Of course, that makes sense. But from a product perspective, this second track that I'm showing here on the right, to do with accessibility and adoption, is also a major way that we can increase the effectiveness of a scientific product. And this might not involve generation of new features, new science, etc. This can simply be documentation, improvements to the UX, the UI, and better training and support with our customer base. So that's the difference, in a way. A product is more of a holistic experience. Products can be improved without necessarily improving the science and technology, although both of them are very important. So what do Quantemol users look like? And I've taken stock images here. These are not people that actually use Quantemol, as far as I'm aware. The expert profile, so the QVT Pro, the person that understands the theory, and in many ways, when they go into industry or academic environments, are the simulation decision maker. These people are great, but there aren't very many of these people. Most people who want to run simulations, who rely on products like the ones that Quantemol offer, do not have this level of understanding to simply pick up and run a scientific simulation. So then we have the lab user profile, QVT Lab. These are the people that understand real life. Sometimes they wear hazmat suits, sometimes they don't. And the value comes not from having a deep theoretical understanding of what's going on in the simulation, but they derive value from having virtual knobs to turn, things that look exactly like the reactor tooling that they work with on a day-to-day basis. So with these two profiles in mind, Quantemol has some guiding principles that I want to share with you here today. We always feel that simulation should augment lab work. It should not replace it. There's always going to be space for expertise, whether this be physics-based simulation or AI-based simulation, AI-based science. Computation should be as fast as possible, close to real-time feedback. Being absolutely perfect and taking far too long to run is not as useful as something that can give you a good result in a much faster turnaround time. And that's what we strive for. Point 3 here is that results should be trustworthy. Now, obviously, many people think, well, results should be accurate, but often in simulation, results aren't accurate, but they can still be really useful. So results need to be trustworthy. They need to have predictable value nodes. So they aren't always going to be perfect, but they need to be predictable in when they go wrong, because that's when they can become useful in real life. And here I've got a bit of a mock-up, how we see different interfaces for different users. So in the top right there, you've got something that looks a little bit more like a reactor. So it's going to be more visual. It's going to have virtual dials that represent physical dials on a machine. Whereas a pro user might just be interested in using a terminal. A pro user is going to opt for more information dense UI. And these are the kinds of thoughts that are guiding us from a product perspective. So finally, back to my initial question, what do Quantemol actually do? And I posit that we bring down the barrier to entry for complex simulation. We don't necessarily make the simulation. We rely on our scientific colleagues in relevant fields. However, at the top of this cliff, you can see I've got R matrix and HPEM. For most people, that is a huge learning curve. For most people in industry, that is a learning curve that they simply do not have time to undertake, and they are never going to realistically build full expertise in those areas under the constraints of a commercial or functioning academic organization. So Quantemol's job is not to make scientific software, it's to help plot this path that goes up the side of the cliff. And our products, we like to think, offer some kind of middle ground. We bring down that barrier to entry, we drive accessibility, and we enable more people to do complex science. And from what we're going to speak about, I'm sure for the rest of today, we're going to see a lot of deep scientific features. But I just want to leave you with that thought that Quantemol, we're very aware of what we do from a product perspective. We've had a lot of conversations about this in the recent months. And this is a small insight into where we're going as a company and how we're looking to drive adoption across a wider user base. So with that, thank you very much. If there are any questions, I'm going to take them, or I'll be around for the rest of the day. Thank you.